Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss what happens next. Lucas Reed built his life on a foundation of integrity. At 38, he wasn't just a high school history teacher. He was a mentor who believed his job was to shape character, not just fill minds with dates and facts. He was the kind of man who found profound satisfaction in the spark of understanding in a student's eyes, a reward that made his modest salary feel rich with purpose. His wife of 9 years, Isabella, operated on a different spectrum of ambition. At 35, she was a rising star, the director of business development at a sleek, fast-moving tech firm. Her world was a whirlwind of investor meetings, international conferences, and a wardrobe that cost more than Lucas's entire semester's budget for classroom supplies. He had always been her biggest cheerleader, genuinely proud of her success, seeing their lives as two different but harmonious paths leading to the same destination, a beautiful future for their family. The heart of that family was their 7-year-old son, Leo. He had his father's thoughtful gaze and his mother's relentless energy. Lucas was the architect of Leo's daily world, making pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, patiently guiding him through math homework, and walking him to school each morning. Isabella's role had become more of a fleeting presence, a perfume-scented kiss goodbye in the early hours, or a late-night return when Leo was already asleep. "I'm doing this for us, for our future," she'd tell Lucas, and he'd believe her, quietly taking on more so their son never felt her absence. But over the last 6 months, the harmony had faltered. A new, cold distance had settled in Isabella. When she was home, she was physically present but emotionally galaxies away, locked in her study on private video calls. Her phone, once an open device, was now guarded like a state secret. If Lucas dared to ask about her day or express a need for her to be more involved with Leo, he was met with a wall of contempt. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under, Lucas," she'd snap. "This isn't grading papers, this is a serious career." The way she said serious felt like a slap, diminishing his life's work to a trivial hobby. The annual school charity gala was Lucas's pride and joy. He'd spent months organizing the silent auction, persuading local businesses to donate, and selling tickets, all to fund the arts program he fiercely believed in. Isabella had reluctantly agreed to attend, her agreement feeling more like a concession than a shared commitment. The night of the gala, she descended the staircase in a stunning, backless emerald dress he had never seen before. She looked like a stranger from a magazine, beautiful but untouchable. Her eyes swept over his simple, well-worn suit with a flicker of disdain. In the car, she scrolled through her phone, complaining about having to spend her Friday night with small-town people with small-town dreams. Lucas focused on the road, clutching the steering wheel a little tighter, trying to shield his excitement for the evening from her negativity. The ballroom was warm and inviting, filled with the hum of conversation and soft music. Lucas moved through the crowd, a natural host shaking hands, introducing Isabella to his colleagues and the parents of his students. But she was a statue of disinterest, nursing a glass of red wine, her smiles tight and perfunctory. She checked her phone constantly, her sighs growing louder as the evening wore on. During the principal's heartfelt speech about the importance of funding creativity in young minds, Isabella leaned over, her breath warm with wine. "I can't do this anymore, Lucas. This is pathetic. I need air." "Just a little longer, Bella. This matters to me," he pleaded, his voice low. She rolled her eyes, drained her glass in one go, and stood up abruptly, the screech of her chair drawing glances from nearby tables. "I'm getting some air," she announced to no one in particular, and walked out of the ballroom with unsteady steps. Lucas waited, his stomach knotting with a familiar, anxious worry. 5 minutes. 10. 15. The pit in his stomach hardened into a cold stone of dread. Excusing himself, he went looking for her. The lobby was empty. The ladies' room was vacant. A chilling intuition pulled him towards the parking lot. The night air was biting. The vast lot was poorly lit, pockets of deep shadow pooling between the cars. He called her name, his voice swallowed by the vastness silence. Then, a sound, a muffled laugh, followed by a low, intimate murmur. It came from the darkest corner near the school's maintenance vans. His heart hammering against his ribs, Lucas moved silently, drawn by the sound like a man to his own execution. And then he saw them. Pressed against the side of a sleek black luxury sedan was Isabella. Her emerald dress was hiked up her thighs. A man in an expensive tailored suit had her pinned against the car, his hands roaming her body, his mouth devouring hers with a raw, desperate hunger that spoke of practiced intimacy. Isabella's head was thrown back, a soft, throaty moan escaping her lips, a sound Lucas hadn't heard from her in years. The world stopped. The sounds of distant traffic faded. All that existed was this horrific, silent film, playing out in the freezing darkness. A primal roar built in his chest, a fury so white-hot it threatened to consume him. But then, the teacher, the methodical historian, took over. Document the source. With hands that trembled not with fear, but with a terrifying, focused rage, he pulled out his phone. He switched to video, the screen illuminating his pale, grim face. He recorded it all. 30 seconds. Clear, undeniable, damning evidence of his wife's betrayal, set against the backdrop of the school he loved. He stopped the recording, slid the phone into his pocket, and took 3 deliberate steps forward. Isabella. His voice was quiet, flat, and carried a deathly chill that cut through the night. She spun around, her eyes wide with shock, then terror, as they focused on him. The man, her boss Adrian, Lucas would later learn, jerked away as if electrocuted, fumbling with his belt, his face a mask of panic. "Lucas, my God, it's not what you think," Isabella stammered, her words slurred, her hands flying to straighten her dress. "I had too much to drink. I wasn't thinking." "It's not what I think?" Lucas interrupted, his voice dangerously low. He held up his phone, the screen displaying a frozen image of her wrapped around another man. "I have 30 seconds of you and him. It's very clear what this is." He turned his gaze to the man, who was already backing away. "How long?" Lucas asked, his eyes boring into Isabella's soul. "How many times have you done this while I was at home, reading bedtime stories to our son?" The man mumbled an incoherent apology and practically sprinted to his car. Peeling out of the parking lot without a second glance, Isabella was sobbing now, her perfect makeup streaking down her cheeks in black lines. "Please, Lucas, it was a mistake." "A one-time thing." "It meant nothing." "Nothing?" he repeated, the word hollow. "You think I'm a fool? The late nights, the secret calls, the contempt? I saw it, I just didn't want to believe the woman I loved could be this person." He took a deep breath, the cold air sharp in his lungs. "When we get home, you will sleep in the guest room tomorrow. You will pack a bag and you will leave. On Monday, I am filing for divorce." "You can't do this to me!" she shrieked, her drunkenness morphing into hysterics. "I have rights. Leo is my son too." "Leo," Lucas said, and his voice finally cracked on the name. "You remember him? The little boy you can't be bothered with because you're too busy." "This?" He gestured at the empty space where her lover had been. "Do you honestly think I will let you teach him that this is how you treat people? That this is what love looks like?" He didn't wait for her answer. He pulled out his phone, ordered an Uber to her location, and sent her the details. Then, with a superhuman effort that would forever define his strength, Lucas Reed turned his back on his weeping wife, straightened his simple suit jacket, and walked back into the warm, brightly lit Gola to finish his job. The perfect life was a lie, shattered in a dark parking lot. But the man who emerged from the shadows was now, for the first time, built entirely of truth. The silence in the house that weekend was a physical presence. Thick and heavy, Isabella remained barricaded in the guest room, emerging only to plead her case through the door. Her voice was a broken record of excuses. It was the wine. It meant nothing. We can fix this. Lucas didn't respond. He moved through their home like a ghost, his calm demeanor more terrifying than any outburst of anger could have been. While Leo slept, unaware that his world had fundamentally shifted, Lucas made his son's favorite pancakes. Sunday morning. He maintained the routines, the bedtimes, the comforting rituals, creating a protective bubble of normalcy around the boy. "Mommy isn't feeling well," he explained gently, and Leo accepted it with the innocent trust that broke Lucas's heart, even as it strengthened his resolve. Late Sunday night, when the house was finally still, Lucas entered the home office they'd once shared. He booted up the computer, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. This wasn't a violation of privacy, it was an archaeological dig into the ruins of his marriage. He started with her email but found only carefully curated professional exchanges. Then he remembered, Isabella was brilliant at compartmentalization. He found it buried in a nested folder labeled Tax Archives 2023. Not just a few incriminating messages, but a treasure trove of deception. Hundreds of emails exchanged with Adrian Vance, her senior vice president. The timeline stretched back nearly 10 months. Lucas read them all, each word etching itself into his memory with acid clarity. The early messages were flirtatious banter disguised as workplace camaraderie. Then they evolved into something darker, more intimate. Detailed planning of hotel rendezvous in cities where she supposedly attended conferences. Explicit photos she'd never sent to him. Discussions of entire weekends stolen while Lucas believed she was networking. But it was the casual cruelty that finally made him physically ill. In one exchange, when Adrian asked why she stayed with her boring husband, Isabella had replied, "He's a failed academic who thinks he's changing the world one teenager at a time makes teacher's salary, and has the ambition of a pet rock." Another message, sent after Lucas had asked her to be more present for Leo's birthday, read, "God, the guilt trips are exhausting. I'm building an empire while he's making finger paintings. Sometimes I wonder why I'm still in this marriage." The final blow came when Adrian directly asked why she didn't just file for divorce. Her response was icy in its calculation. Convenience, mostly. And because of the kid. Divorce is messy and expensive. This works for now. The kid. Not Leo. Not my son. The kid. As if their child were an inconvenient object. A piece of furniture to be considered in the division of assets. Something in Lucas shattered then. Not into pieces, but into something hard and unyielding. The heartbroken husband was gone. In his place stood a father ready to go to war for his son. He worked with cold precision. He created encrypted folders and downloaded everything. Every email, every photo, every hotel confirmation. He cross-referenced their joint bank statements, highlighting suspicious transactions. A $2,800 charge at a luxury spa that coincided with a business trip to Napa. Recurring payments to hotels she'd never mentioned. $600 for lingerie from a boutique she'd told him was for a client gift. By dawn, he had compiled a digital dossier of the betrayal. He didn't feel anger anymore. He felt clarity. Monday morning, he sat in the immaculate office of Eleanor Vance, a divorce attorney known for her ruthless efficiency and discretion. She was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes that missed nothing, her silver hair pulled back in a severe bun. Lucas laid out his evidence without emotion. The parking lot video, the printed emails, the highlighted bank statements. Eleanor reviewed the materials in silence, her expression growing progressively grimmer. When she reached the message where Isabella referred to Leo as the kid, she looked up, her professional mask slipping for just a moment. "Mr. Reed," she said finally, setting down her reading glasses. "In 20 years of practice, I've rarely seen a case this thoroughly documented from the outset. Your instinct to collect evidence was correct. With this," she tapped the stack of papers, "especially the messages demonstrating emotional neglect of your child, we will not only secure primary physical custody, but we can also pursue reimbursement of marital funds spent on this affair. I just want to protect my son, Lucas said, his voice steady. He deserves better than to be raised by someone who sees him as an inconvenience. And he will be, Eleanor assured him, already typing rapidly on her laptop. We'll file for divorce today. We'll request primary physical custody with supervised visitation for your wife initially, and we'll demand full reimbursement of all diverted marital funds plus legal fees. The legal machinery began to turn with startling speed. Isabella, represented by a high-priced corporate lawyer, fought back. She claimed Lucas was trying to turn her son against her, that he was jealous of her success, that the messages were taken out of context. But at their first custody hearing, when Eleanor played the parking lot video and then presented the emails, particularly the one where Isabella called Leo the kid, the judge's demeanor turned to ice. Mrs. Reed, the judge said, her voice cutting through the courtroom. The evidence presented shows a pattern of behavior that goes beyond marital infidelity. We have evidence of financial deception and, most disturbingly, what appears to be emotional detachment from your child. These messages are deeply concerning to this court. Isabella's tears this time were real, but they came too late. The judge granted Lucas temporary primary physical custody, allowing Isabella only 2 hours of supervised visitation. Each Sunday, she was also ordered to immediately reimburse $8,500 to their joint account, half of the documented funds spent on her affair. As they left the courthouse, Isabella grabbed Lucas's arm, her eyes desperate. Please don't do this. He's my son too. Lucas looked at her, really looked at her, and saw only a stranger. You should have thought of that before you called him the kid, he said quietly, and walked away. The foundation had been laid. The battle for his son's future was underway, and Lucas held all the weapons. But the war was far from over, and the collateral damage was just beginning to spread. The victory in court felt hollow in the quiet emptiness of the house. For weeks, Lucas moved through the rooms like a ghost, the silence punctuated only by Leo's tentative questions about when Mommy was coming home. Each supervised visit left the boy quiet and withdrawn, and Lucas's heart ached with the impossibility of shielding his son from the fallout of Isabella's choices. He knew anger would poison them both. So he chose a different path, therapy for himself and play therapy for Leo. He turned Isabella's old office into a vibrant playroom, filling it with Legos and books and the sounds of their shared laughter. Slowly, the shadows in Leo's eyes began to recede. Lucas never intended for the story to spread. But when concerned parents at school asked about the divorce, he answered with quiet dignity. Isabella was having an affair with her superior at work, he'd say, his voice steady. I'm focusing on raising our son now. The truth delivered without malice proved more powerful than any rumor. One of those parents was David Chen, a venture capitalist whose firm had heavily invested in Oratech, Isabella's company. David knew that executive affairs created toxic workplaces and legal liabilities. He discreetly alerted the board. The internal investigation uncovered more than anyone expected. Adrian Vance had expensed lavish dinners and hotel stays as client entertainment. All coinciding with his tryst with Isabella, their relationship created a clear conflict of interest, compromising her recent promotion. Worse still, Adrian was married to the daughter of Oratech's largest investor. When an anonymous email tipped off Adrian's wife about the affair, complete with specific dates and locations, the scandal exploded. The board acted swiftly. 3 months after the parking lot incident, both Isabella and Adrian were terminated for gross misconduct and violation of company ethics policies. The fallout was brutal. Adrian's marriage ended in a contentious divorce that cost him half his assets. Isabella, suddenly unemployed and toxic in the industry, found herself unhireable at her previous level. She eventually accepted a junior marketing position at a small firm, her income reduced to a fraction of what it had been. Meanwhile, Lucas's life was quietly transforming. He'd started having coffee with Sarah, the school librarian, a gentle woman with her own story of heartbreak. Their friendship grew slowly, carefully, always with Leo's well-being at the center. To Lucas's amazement, Leo took to Sarah immediately, drawn to her calm presence and genuine interest in his dinosaur drawings. 2 years after that fateful night, Lucas sat on the soccer field bleachers watching Leo score his first goal. The boy's triumphant smile as he searched for his father in the crowd was everything. Sarah sat beside Lucas, their hands naturally finding each other across the field. Isabella stood alone. She looked thinner, older, dressed in clothes from mass market stores. When Leo waved to her, it was with polite detachment before turning back to his teammates. Lucas felt a pang of something. Not pity, but sorrow for what she had thrown away. The true measure of their new lives became clear during Leo's 8th birthday party. The backyard was filled with laughter and children's shouts. Sarah helped Leo blow out candles while Lucas grilled burgers. Friends from school mingled with Lucas's colleagues. It was ordinary, messy, and perfect. Isabella had chosen to skip the party, sending an expensive drone instead. Leo played with it for 10 minutes before abandoning it for the simple joy of chasing his friends through the sprinkler. That evening, as Lucas tucked a sun-exhausted Leo into bed, his son hugged him extra tight. "This was the best birthday ever, Dad." "Why's that, buddy?" "Because everyone who loves me was here," Leo murmured sleepily. In the living room, Sarah was quietly cleaning up, humming as she worked. She looked up when Lucas entered, her smile warm and knowing. "He okay?" "More than okay," Lucas said, looking around at their life, the scattered toys, the fading birthday balloons, the comfortable chaos of a home filled with love. He occasionally heard about Isabella through mutual acquaintances, that she was in therapy, that she'd moved to a smaller apartment, that she was trying to rebuild. He genuinely hoped she found peace, not for her sake, but for Leo's. A happy, stable mother, even at a distance, was better for his son than a bitter, broken one. 3 years after the gala, Lucas stood at the school's career day, surrounded by students hanging on his every word. He wasn't teaching history anymore. He was living proof that character matters, that integrity has value, that rebuilding with dignity is possible. After class, a sophomore girl approached him shyly. "Mr. Reed, I'm doing a project on personal resilience. Could I interview you?" Lucas smiled. "Of course, but I should warn you, my story doesn't have any villains. Just people making choices and living with the consequences." The greatest revenge wasn't destruction. It was building something beautiful from the rubble. It was watching his son grow into a kind, secure boy. It was finding love based on honesty rather than illusion. It was living so authentically that the past lost its power to hurt him. As he walked home that afternoon, the autumn sun warm on his face, Lucas realized the final piece of anger had melted away. The man who emerged from the ashes wasn't just surviving, he had become someone wiser, stronger, and more truly himself than the man he'd been before. The betrayal hadn't broken him, it had forged him. Thank you for being part of this journey with us. If this story resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more powerful real-life stories about love, loss, and the strength to begin again.